Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the live composing show here on YouTube Live, part of Become a Game Composer. So glad that you are here today. We are doing a first look at the brand new, like yesterday, brand new Symphonic AI. Now, before we totally get off topic, Symphonic AI does not stand for artificial intelligence, as you might think. It actually stands for animated intelligence. So what we're doing here today is we're taking a look at this brand new library. We're going to be writing a live game track and just featuring the new software. I think it's absolutely amazing. I think it could be a game changer for a lot of composers. And I hope that if this is something that you want to add to your tool belt, you'll take a look at the 50% discount link in the description below. Click on that. Don't do it right this second, but you can check that out after the stream and have some fun with that. Now, just a quick little aside, that is an affiliate link that supports my channel here at no additional cost to you. So if that's something that you think would be a really cool addition to your tool belt, 50% off, pretty good. So what's interesting about this library is it's actually a combo of two of my favorite libraries. It's a combo of Sample Logic and Red Room Audio. This is the first time they've ever teamed together. And so you might recognize the samples today that we're going to be playing with. The orchestral recordings are actually from Palette. And so I guess it was a few months ago that I did a review of Palette, and I walked through all the different features of that and how I still believe it's one of the best all-in-one packages for anyone that wants to get into orchestral music, because it has your strings, your brass, your percussion, and then the choir and piano and all of the orchestral style things that you need and all the different articulations for them. So it's just this one beautiful bundle. And what's cool about Symphonic AI is it takes those samples, but then it runs it through the Sample Logic custom contact synth engine. What it's doing is it's taking the best of both worlds. It's the acoustic, beautiful, great, deeply sampled orchestral content, but it's running it through this synth engine that just morphs and mangles all the sounds. And so what you just heard a second ago when I played, that's all out of the box. That's just two patches that I loaded simultaneously. And so this is a sandbox. This kind of reminds me of Omnisphere, for any of you who have used that, or even Gravity by Heaviosity. It's kind of this really interesting hybrid world for modern scoring. And for many of you who are just getting into the beginnings of your career writing for games, a lot of games call for unique, interesting sounds, and they want that orchestral sound, but they don't want it to be like overtly a string line or a brass line. But it's really cool when you can take organic samples and then run them through basically an arpeggiator, a step sequencer, as we're going to explore here today. And you can just make really cool music really fast that you otherwise wouldn't be able to do. So welcome to the stream. We're going to have some fun over the next couple hours as we actually write a live track using this interface. So let's take a quick look at the actual sales page, just so we're on the same page here regarding what's inside. So Symphonic AI, it's on the Sample Logic website, but again, it's a combo product here, Sample Logic and Red Room Audio. Just a couple little points about it. They have 938 instruments and presets in here, so it's a huge engine. It just reminds me of Omnisphere and how deep of an engine it is. 13 gigs of sample content. So really what makes this special, you kind of see the breakdown here. You do have to have Contact version 5.8.1 or higher. It's not going to work with the free Contact player. This is not one of those free instruments. This is the real deal. This is a big old library. And it can work as a standalone, but for most of us, we're going to use it as a VST, an AU, or an AAX if you're in Logic or Pro Tools. That's kind of the nitty gritty of it. But let's actually look into the interface and see what makes this so stinking special. I'm really pumped about showing you this. So if you were to just load open Symphonic AI, it's a pretty huge window. Typically Contact instruments are not this large, so I'm gonna have to kind of scroll around for you to see it. For right now, I'll just take my face off the screen so you can see the whole thing. But you notice how it's taken up almost all of the screen. But it's just one patch, which is so interesting. It's not trying to have like all the presets crammed into a folder. I like that it's just one engine. So a couple like key features here that just to understand what this is, you see under the core tab, we have step, effects, and master, and that's basically it. But the core tab, it has 4 different synth engines, if you will. So this kind of reminds me of Massive, for those of you who use that by Native Instruments. It's, it lets you load up to 4 sounds simultaneously. And so if you were to go in here and let's just solo sound number 1, and let's make sure that, only this patch is loaded at the moment, which it is. If I just play number 1, it's going to be the core preset of Deliberation, but the source sound from palette is the solo cello spiccato, close, which is very specific. So it's kind of quiet. I'll turn it up. So each of these has this little button here, which is the I'm not sure what they actually call it, but it basically splits up the sound. So if I play a chord, like a C minor chord, it's going to use the step sequencer that's embedded in, and it's actually going to toss randomly the pitches. So obviously a C minor chord would be a C, E flat, and a G. So obviously if I'm holding down the chord, you see how it's kind of treating it like an arpeggiator. And again, this is a pretty quiet. By default, each of these sounds are pretty quiet because you're usually combining 3 or 4 at a time in the presets. So if I just solo that, right? But we can untoggle that little box and then just play like a normal patch. And now it sounds exactly like you'd expect with the normal parameters that you expect on any sample instrument. But what's so neat is it's treating it much more like a sound design tool, because it already is running through this low cut filter and a high cut filter. So that's the default sound right there. Pretty cool. And a question from Chance in the chat, which I think is worth going through. He says, you said that this sound set is based off of palette. Does that mean you can use the orchestral instruments without the synth effects? Yes, you can. So maybe that's a little workaround for those of you who have not purchased palette, but you were thinking about it. It's kind of a workaround because you actually have to, toggle off all the effects. But yeah, you could essentially use all of the palette sounds more or less. And just to show you that, if you go to the source, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but this source window is really where all the magic happens, where it may feel a bit cumbersome at first, but everything is based on tags for a very quick search. So you can always go up to the filter and you can type in whatever you want to search for. And you can very quickly, whether it's this search bar here or it's actually just going through the tags themselves, you can very quickly come up with the exact type of sound you're looking for. Because even in this one tag of punchy, it takes all of the patches, and remember there's 938, I think, of these. If you hit punchy, now you can see how only the ones that are punchy with that tag appear. And then when you click on one of these, it's going to reset all 4 of these to new patches. So the level of customization is endless. It really is, because there's, 4 instruments, and then there's like 20 different MIDI articulations, and then there's also the XY control. So this thing gets pretty deep. So I don't want to get lost in the weeds here, but just to show you a few of my favorite parts about this. So we have the 4 different instruments that you can choose from. So right now, let me get out of that overwhelming menu there. So if we're still soloed on this cello, right, I could change the source sound that this one oscillator is going through. So I can do that by going over here to the right side and scrolling up and down. And you'll notice how it has all of the sounds in one convenient little section here. So currently it's under solo brass, but I could change that to solo strings or just put it on solo. And now this is actually the melodics pack from palette. And you just have access to all these different sounds. So if I didn't want that particular cello staccato sound, I could change it to, say, a solo violin staccato, close. But again, we're not really going for a super amazing solo sound, right? We're trying to manipulate it, right? So then you could go through and choose the core preset. So these are all of the presets, which are different than the actual instruments themselves. And you can go through here and it's pretty wild what we can do here. Just choosing between all the different parameters, but we can change the core preset. So really what's happening here is we're combining 4 completely unique sounds. And then all of those 4 combined is the preset hiding in shadows. And then the presets themselves are the 938. So it's just wild. This gets into the tens of thousands of permutations. Not to mention if you wanted to customize anything yourself. I'm just talking about the presets themselves. There's over 10,000 presets that you can mix and match. It's times 4 because you can do 4 at a time. But of course, you could get crazier than that, like I just did a minute ago, by loading up 2 different patches that you like. So essentially, you're playing 8 sounds at the same time. It's just crazy how deep this can get with something so simple. So that alone is really cool that you can manipulate so many sounds with one knob. I love that. But then this XY mixer here in the middle is also very, very interesting. So if I just turn it off and just start playing, everything's kind of normal, like a normal sample instrument. But as soon as I turn it on, this is now a grid that I can move for frequency sweeps like this. Now, it's not super interesting because it's just a solo violin, but let's get more interesting by toggling off the solo. Now we have 4 sounds at once. Let me turn all these up. Heck, I'm just going to choose new patch so we can hear some new sounds. Cool, so this is a brand new preset, 4 different sounds combined here. So look what happens when I move this XY mixer around. I'm literally holding down the same chord. I hope that you can see that. So as I play, like right here, look what happens as I slide this around. Talk about more permutations. It's like morphing the combo of all of these things together. So we're starting off with orchestral sounds, but by the time you kind of start playing around with these different parameters, you're just going to create some new crazy electronic, electronicized orchestral sound. And what's more is you can record your own. So I can go down here and hit this little record button and then start moving around this little wheel. And what it's doing is it's actually recording my motion right now. So let's do that and let's hit play. And now it's going to start moving around as I hold down my keys here. I can go to different parameters here, like angry bubbles. Check that out. These are all of their preset motions. So if I hold it down and play through the XY, next one. Pretty interesting. Now, by default, if you go to the step sequencer, which is the second tab of the engine, by default, everything is going to be tempo synced by 8th notes, 16th notes, triplets, whatever. And you can tell by just what it says, like it's a 16-step sequencer. And any of you who have dealt with maybe EDM or any other kind of synthesizers, you'll be familiar with how arpeggiators work and how a step sequencer works. Essentially, you're just telling it when to play a pitch. So if I were to just solo this piano, so in my DAW session, I have a tempo of 110 BPM. You can kind of sort of hear it, right? Bum, 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 bum. So essentially when I hit the notes, it's going to be tempo synced no matter when I start. And of course, when I play chords, right? Pretty cool. And then obviously you can change each of these 4 parameters, each of these 4 patches that we've selected, and we can do all kinds of fun things by changing the velocity, by changing, which note durations, which rhythm, and then the velocity as well. So you can do that by sliding up and down with these little black bars, and you can completely change the emphasis of when certain beats come in. And notice in this particular example how the piano that we're using in patch 1 is a 16 step, but then the very next one in patch 2 is a 6 step. So what that means is it's going to play all 16 steps before it plays the 6 steps again. So just a really interesting way to make in this case, a 2-bar phrase. So you hear that like guitar type sound called distressed, and it's a saw, square, and triangle wave all combined together. You see how it kind of fades in and out naturally because of the step sequencing. And then if we add the next layer, which is the Darth, what is it called? The lowest Darth brass. Here it kind of punches in, which is just trumpets and horns run through the effects of that particular preset. And then we have this crazy Devil's Due preset, which is just so interesting to me. And that Brahms right here, that patch that we're using, that's actually from the trailer tools. So for those unfamiliar, I think it's worth taking just a second, because I don't know if anyone else is going to make this connection. I don't know, in other first looks and other reviews, they may not make this connection, but palette is the source material here. So palette, I've done a review here in the channel. If we were to open that up within Contact, this is a Red Room Audio instrument, the library, and they have 4 different packs for palette, but the Symphonic Sketchpad is really where most of the patches come from. So within Symphonic Sketchpad, you'll notice how we have strings, chamber strings, woodwinds, chamber woodwinds, brass, chamber brass, percussion, trailer percussion, timpani, a bunch of orchestral percussion like the board instruments, and then we even have a really nice piano, a harp, choir, trailer tools, and a synth engine. So really what they're doing here is taking all of those instruments and some select instruments from the melodics pack, which is all of the solo instruments like violin, cello, flute, oboe, trumpet, horn. They're taking those 2, and when you load up this one instrument of Symphonic AI, you're getting access to all of those palette instruments. It's the same samples, but what we're doing is instead of the original clean sample, they're now slotted into these 4 patches. So as mentioned before, if you wanted to have access to palette without having to buy palette separately, this would be a little bit of a workaround. But of course, if you're going to go with Symphonic AI, I hope that you're wanting to create these hybrid electronic orchestral soundscapes, because that's really the whole purpose behind it. A question from Chance says, do you know how long your affiliate link will be good for? I don't actually, so take advantage of it while it's there. The nature of, just to kind of talk about that, the nature of new releases like this, no time frames are given. That's not something I actually know. And that's okay. It's one of those incentives that I hope you'll take advantage of to get the 50%. That's not something that anyone decides right at the top. It could be a few days, could be a week, could be a month. I have no idea. What else are you guys saying up there? Hi, Andre, Xavier, Darren, Chance, Maha. So glad you guys are here. So that's the basics of the engine itself. That step sequencer is really where all the magic is. But of course, you can always go to the effects tab and go crazy. And you'll notice how many of these presets already have a bunch of these on. So these are your basic effects that you're going to find in any Contact instrument. So I don't think those are particularly special. I would personally rather use my own plugins that I'm very familiar with. But for the sake of very quickly assembling 4 different patches together, it's really nice to have this. Then you can very quickly throw on, in a very linear fashion, saturation, EQ, delay, mess with the vowels, flanger, formant, whatever. And as mentioned before, if you really want the pure sound from palette, you're going to have to turn off all of the effects. But you'll notice like even that sound, that's a piano, it's, it's tossed through all these things. You have to turn off the step sequencer as well. And then you have to like make it the right length. So I'm not saying you necessarily want to do that, but it's, it's one way you can do it. Let's play around with the different parameters there, make sure it's kind of set off. But yeah, that's basically how we use this library. But the whole purpose of an engine like this, very much like Damage by Heaviosity or Gravity by Heaviosity, and also, if we're talking about video game music specifically, many of you are familiar with Super Audio Cart. That's another one. A lot of these instruments that are within the Kontakt engine, they all kind of function the same way. But what I find really interesting about this Symphonic AI, I feel like it spurs a lot of creativity. And within seconds, I can create a new sound that I've never used before, because it's all about combining elements versus something like Massive, which I use all the time to create custom sounds that are in my head. This, I don't think I'm going to be using it a lot to create sounds in my head, but rather being inspired by new ideas. Because whenever I'm writing a new game soundtrack, I'm always looking for a new idea, something that really can be the staple of that game that no one else has ever used. I think this is a very quick route to get there without having to whack your head against the table. But yeah, you can come up with some weird stuff, and sometimes weird is good. So let's do this. I want to pop into our session, and now we get to have some fun. We're going to start writing just a fresh track. So let's open up just a blank preset here. And all I've done so far is set my tempo to 110. So I want this to be a slightly fast tune, a slightly fast track. And what I have in mind is maybe something a little bit sinister, a little bit dark and epic. It's typically the sound that I go for. And the way that I want to do this is I want to just start by going to my browser and going through my tags. I think it's going to be the quickest way to get the sound in the style that we want. So let's try to get something that's very fast and electronic, kind of maybe some string ostinato type thing or brass ostinato. So let's just start with that. Let's do short staccato, fast motion. And my suggestion for you is when you're choosing tags, try to choose like 3 or 4 tags. That way you're only left with a handful of presets, because there's just no way that you can go through all of those and save time. It just doesn't make sense. So instead, I'd rather choose like as many words as possible that get what I want. So fast motion, short staccato, and let's do strings. And we still have, like 30 options. So let's keep going. How about punchy? How about percussive? And now we only have 4 choices. Now we can actually start making some music. Takes a second to load because it's a lot of data. And now if I wanted to change back, I can just click on that search bar again, and then those same filters are all still there. So it's a quick way to just audition some things. So let me pop the camera back up here so we can see what these sound like, and let's go for it. How funny. Oh, it was soloed, my bad. I like that. That's very Final Fantasy. I'm curious why they called that strings, because it's like all piano, but yeah, let's check out that Ferrari versus Ford. That sounds really funny. So this is much more woodwind based. I don't like that one as much for this, so I can just hit the right arrow and it's going to cycle through those 4 presets that I had. Oh, no, it's not. Junk. I thought it would. Okay, found our first limitation. Let's go back. Punchy, short staccato, strings, and percussion, fast motion. There we go. Yeah, apparently if you don't open the menu back up, it will do that. So let's go to One World Tribe. Let's see what that feels like. And this is why, like, because it takes a few seconds to load, I just don't believe in auditioning 1,000 things. There we go. That's more strings. That's basically just some strings and marimba, some woodwinds. Not a huge fan of that one. That's okay. I'm glad that I'm not a huge fan of all of them, or else I'd have a hard time choosing, right? And again, these samples are already turned down a little bit in volume, so you have to kind of crank up what you like. But I appreciate that they're not breaking our ears when we load them like Omnisphere does all the time. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go with that first one. So let's go back up here, fast fingers. That'll be our first patch of the day. And I'm gonna call that, I'm gonna call that piano arp. And let's get something low. How it sounded like last time. See, I could actually change these. I can change this little button here. So it only, hits every time I hit the keys. I like that the marimba in the background. And again, I can just change the marimba portion, which is like all the delay stuff. So as I hold that, I'm going to shift some of these to be a little bit less bright. There we go. Isn't that cool? So what I did is I took that marimba sound. Let me solo it. I cranked up the energy, but then I also took the attack off. I think that's probably one of the most useful knobs I've ever seen. It's just a one knob attack where you can literally lob off and turn anything into a pad. Isn't that amazing? Let's make it even more extreme. I want it to go whoo, whoo, whoo. Maybe change the release a little bit. So what I'm going to hold the pedal down with the sound, and that way we can adjust it. Cool. See, now I have created a sound that no one else in the world has. And it took me about a minute, but I also didn't have to spend a ton of time or energy because I used good tags and I found a sound that I think fits the style I'm going for. So that's really all there is to using something like this. So now let's put it in. I'm going to always give myself one bar free. And I'm going to, let's do this. I'm going to crank the volume for everybody. I feel like maybe, it's a pretty good volume as I add brass and stuff on top. Let's go. be on time. So I'm curious if I do this, if I make that perfectly quantized. Sounds like it's not tempo synced, so I wonder what button I have to push to make that tempo synced. Is it latch? Oh no, oh that's interesting. Look, if you click latch, it just treats it like a pedal. That way if you push it, it just does its thing. Yeah, that's pretty cool. It might also be really fun to play with the XY mixer. That's cool. That's going to be a lot of fun to play with that. So, because you can like morph between sounds. How neat is that? So that is something I want to keep going for probably 16 bars or more. I want that to be like the underpinning idea, maybe like a chase scene. And I'm thinking of something like Final Fantasy VIII, something that very industrial, very, you know, heart pounding. Yeah, there's got to be a button here for tempo sync. I mean, typically, you could always go into the actual contact instrument itself and tempo sync by playing around with time down here. I don't necessarily want to do that if we can find a button for it. Seems like one of those really simple things. But I'm going to save this. I think that's going to be cool. So I can save that as, I'll call it FF8 Chase Piano. Oh, if something happens, I always have that file to save it, or just use it in another track. Let's see, guys. Let's see if we can figure this thing out. Oh, there's also a random button, which is pretty awesome, which actually takes the current settings, but then will shuffle around the source. So if you want the same parameters, but you want to play around, that'd be a cool thing to experiment with. There's lots of experimentation here. Yeah, Chance says tempo syncing would be a make or break for this. Yeah, I agree. Just got my hands on this, so I haven't had a chance to find that button. I want to find it, though, because that sounds pretty important. It's all step sequenced. Maybe it's the link button. That sounds like it might do it. No, I bet you link just links. If I make a change, it'll change it for everything. But they also have a button here for DAW versus live. No, it's not working. I want to figure this out. Oops, well, I hit the random button. I guess we're going to figure out what that does. Okay. I'm okay with this. I love how it made them all square waves. Found our second patch. Awesome. So we call that square ARP. This is just what happens live. I gotta find that daggone button. It's duplicating right now. Now this is a pretty heavy patch. You can always purge samples if that's an issue. If it's taking up a lot of RAM for you. But remember this, what was this, 16, 18 gigs of information hiding in there. So it might do you well to purge or to save the database to your machine. That is probably the one downside to any time you have a giant program like this. It's inevitable. You can't really help that. But you see how long that took, but that's because it's a separate engine, you know? So if that's the piano ARP, let's make this the square ARP. Let's leave that how he is, but remember how I saved that because I decided to be smart? Let's open that and let's go to that, back to that piano. Whew, I would have lost that forever, guys. Good. That was kind of scary. It's like they're all tempo sync together, but not to the DAW. So I wonder if that's just a simple button that I'm missing over here in the settings or in the step. Because notice how it's set to live. So let me see if that was it. Seems like a pretty simple thing. It's definitely something you can always do in Contact. Let's go over to the step. Let's go to DAW. Maybe it's hiding in the master settings. I just don't know. Excuse me. I don't see it. Do you guys see it? Teach me. Teach me if you know. I wonder. Let's see what happens if I like crank it up to 150. Okay, it is tempo synced. It's just a this particular effects combo is causing it to be delayed. That's interesting. So I'm glad that we tested that. So like, for example, let me actually show you, I'm not just making this up. So over here in my tempo, if I go down to like 70. So what I'm assuming is first of all, put it back to like 110. Yeah, so it is totally synced. But let's just make sure that, look what happens if I hit live on the patches. That should disassociate them from the tempo of, that's under the step menu, from the DAW session. So let's try that. If I do the same thing, go to 70 down here. Interesting. So yeah, I'm not really sure where that button comes into play, or if that's just something. I don't know how that one works, but that's okay. As long as it's tempo synced, it is. But something fun within Cubase you can always do is go over here to the little delay for the entire track, and you can move something forward or backwards. So right now, my click, I'm going to move it to where it lines up perfectly. It's actually too fast, so I'm going to make this a little bit behind, like this. Cool, so it's like exactly 100 milliseconds off. So I'm going to do that for both of my tracks, and then they should both land perfectly. Then I can quantize everything straight on the beat, and it should be fine. Some patches are just like that, but I think perhaps because we're taking essentially sloppy strings and piano and stuff, which if you've ever worked with MIDI data with strings, they're always sloppy attacks. Whatever. So that's a quick solution you can do. So now it is dead on. Eunice, you're funny. They said, I swear that you change your channel name every few months, I've noticed. You're not wrong. It's changed several times in the last year. That's just out of an effort to, not to rebrand, but to niche down. Because I used to, on this channel, I used to do, actually way back in the day, VG Piano Man. That's when I used to do just video game piano covers. So it was funny as I started off with video games. And then as I grew and grew and grew and wanted to do more things, I got a lot more into film, got a lot more into like TV music and movie trailers and podcasts. And then all of a sudden my channel became all the things. But then I realized, wait a second, let's go back to my first love, which is video games and teaching people specifically how to write for video games and how to make a business out of that. And so that's kind of full circle where it is now. And there's a website, becomeagamecomposer.com. You can actually see right here, boink. If you have not downloaded the free guide, 10 Steps to Become a Game Composer, that is a completely free guide for you, $17 value. That's been helping lots of composers start to understand where they are in their journey, not just guessing, but to actually get to the industry average income of $63,000 per year as a game composer working from home. So if that's something you aspire to, if you want to earn that much or more, those are the steps to do it. And it's for free. So go download that. And I think you'll enjoy that and all the other free content that will be coming your way as part of my email list. So anyway, back to the show. Fun comment. So, and I missed something from KFEB. What are the applications of this library for game music? Would be nice if you made a more video game-like cue instead of something that sounds screenish. You think this sounds film? Well, then we're not done. You don't hear what I hear yet. That's the problem. I'm going for like straight up Final Fantasy style. Final Fantasy VIII, if I have to pick one. That style. So the way you can audition this is just turn off one at a time and then add the ones you actually like. So that one's just the exact same. These are all three the same patch. That's weird. That's why it sounded a little bit weird. So 3 of them were the same. So let's just do one. And then here's the piano sound. That's pretty cool. It's like a reverse piano. Or it's because the attack is turned down. Right here, you can see the attack, how it's lobbed up like a pad. This is a great place, a great way to turn orchestral sounds into patches, like into electronic patches and pads. Let's add one more patch and just change. Let's make something. Let's get some, I don't know, some choir in there or something. So let's do that by going to the actual source. Let's find choir. Let's see if we can find some of that in there. There's a bunch of choir. Like this. Thanks for subbing, Zuka. So this is what happens when you mess with the choir. That's so cool. That is, yeah, Renzo Kukin. So I'm just screwing around with the knobs here for the choir. How interesting is that? Hey, have a good one, Chance. Hope you'll come back and watch the replay. That's a pretty cool Metroid-ish. That's cool. So now that I have the choir in there, it's on such a long attack that it's like over the course of 4 bars, it's going to start rising. So that's going to be kind of cool. Oh yeah, let's put that in. I like that a lot. And let's increase the length. That's going to be cool. And we can go ahead and quantize those just so it's not so crazy. Yeah, I think we're getting to a cool place here. So here's the thing. With any library like this, which is very experimental, I don't recommend that you write an entire track that features exclusively the experimental stuff, because it's not always the most interesting. It's not the most controlled and like creative. So what I love about a library like this is it helps us create a pad, a bedrock, a foundation. That way now we can put all kinds of really cool stuff on top of it and to actually shape it into something that I otherwise would not have ever thought of. Because now we have this cool pulse in the background, and I think really what Symphonic AI is best for is creating arpeggios, like arpeggiated sequences, but we're using organic sounds to do it. And it kind of creates these cool steps. So now we get to have lots of fun and just experiment with some more standard sounds to put on top of it to help beef this thing up. And I feel like just the nature of this, I want it to be a loop. So I think it just makes good sense. Maybe right around here, just to do 2, like if that's an A section, so to speak, then maybe right here is a B section. Nothing crazy, but maybe just change 1 chord. So if that was all, which by the way, I want to just throw on an EQ on top of that to get rid of a little bit of that high noise. Cool. So if we have all this, perhaps for the second half, no, put on at A flat. That way it can kind of sit and do his thing until the end. Like there, and then we have ourselves a loop, a purdy loop, and it'll loop back to the A. just go down a half step. To a B. Yeah, it's more interesting to me. So now we get to just play and have some fun, shall we? So now, man, the fun of something like this is you just get to go to town. I want some big beefy percussion. Let's maybe grab one more Symphonic AI just so we can have a perk ARP. I don't want to go overboard, but I want something that kind of has the electronic vibe, and maybe some big thuds every 4 bars. Boom, 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 boom. I can create that stuff from scratch, but I'd rather, just for fun, let's see what we can create. It is loading, but remember, these are large patches. You might be better off just creating multiple. If you have lower CPU, you might just want to try creating multiple within one context instance. But this one I want to be a perk ARP. Let's play around. Let's see what we can find inside of here. I'm sure there's something that's going to work for us. So let's just go up here and let's, so percussive. What do we even want? Maybe a slow motion, dry. Let's see what these sound like. Oh, that's cool. Okay. I agree with this. Oh man, that just, yes please. Can I have some more? I think we found a winner. It's like not even what I was looking for, but I don't care. We're gonna call that choir plus perk ARP. Man, that's epic. All right, so this part. Maybe. I like it, but the choir is too often. So let's go to the step of the choir, and we'll make it 16 steps. And then turn all of these off. If I can quickly figure out what button does that. Oh, you just click the top of it, and it click the pink space, and then it disappears. So like this. So I wonder if I should do the same thing with the tubular bells. Let's make that 32. And I just want that to be one beat every 4 bars. I do wish there's a way you could like select a bunch of them, and whatever, it's not a big deal. I'm not going to cry about it. Go back to page 1, and then I'm going to play with the octave here. I am going to make the octave minus 1 because it gets so high. if I play low like this. Here comes the next bell. One, two, three, four. It's actually 8 bars if it's 32 steps. Isn't that cool? Yay, math. Math to the rescue. I'm totally saving that one too. That one's going to be called, I don't even know, Gothic Choir Pad. I don't know if I want the choir every... Let's just try it. Here we go. How that just kind of comes in every once in a while. Okay, I feel like the choir needs to be 32 as well. And then I just go to that second page, turn them all off. That way, it only repeats when the bells repeat, if that makes sense. So like this, there's just too much happening. Something like that. I guess that's an even 31. That'll probably make for a good loop point anyway. Back here, let's find out. So even this one has a delay, or maybe it doesn't need to have a delay. Let's find out. Play with that, but that's pretty interesting stuff. So now I feel like we just need big thuds to start. So let's get some sub hits. The quickest way I know how to do that is just to grab something. Just to grab a big old hit. Oh, whoops, I have to go find it. La 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 la. La 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 la. Alright, I'm just looking for... I've recently moved some of my stuff to a different drive, so it's yelling at me. So this one... It's just a free pack called Ava Instinct. Has a really nice big old thud. That, throw a big old EQ on it. Looks like this. Make it nice and scary. And put it in. So we now have 4 bars of that, or 4 repetitions of that, and I can just literally chop it up like so. I'm liking this direction. It feels good. Now I think we gotta throw a harpsichord in there. Let's see if we can find one. Harpsichord. That's a fun word to spell. Harpsichord. All right, what do we got to play with here today? Not that, stop. Let's see, where would I put such a thing? Orchestral, no, medieval maybe? Ethnic, I don't even know where I put my stuff anymore. So many libraries. Keys, organ, synths, nope, Where would you put a harpsichord? Percussion, right? Okay, oh Lord, orchestral, percussion. I don't even know. This is embarrassing. Can't even find my own stuff. I swore I had ethnic. There it is. Ethnic keys is what I called it. Okay. Let's try one of these. Ignore. How to gothify anything. You don't need anything special on there other than maybe an EQ to tame it. Like that, just turn it way down. Thankfully, I studied Bach as a younger self. Playing harmonic minor scales. Isn't it interesting how it just like fits? So cool. That's what I'm going to do. Cool. That'd be a cool modulation when we go back to a B minor. Triplets there, triplet. It just kind of creates more motion. Take it, 16th note triplets, which I can't quantize until I get right on it. That's such a cool pad in the background. So in this second one, I'm just going to take that and copy it and put it an octave lower over here. Playing a lot of Death's Gambit recently, which is basically a 2D Dark Souls. If anyone's ever played that game, it's fabulous, and I'm very inspired by that type of music, and I write a lot of that music actually. So I think it's and innerly channeling that right now. This would totally fit in that game. Now for the cherry on top, I'm gonna add some. This is gonna sound so good. I'm gonna add some grosso. I think. What's the one? I have to figure out. This is one of the Sonokinetic libraries. Whichever one is the atonal one. Okay, espressivo. I get their names confused. Oh my gosh, this is gonna just liven this whole thing up even more. So I don't really believe in using one library for everything. What's the point, right? But what I'm trying to do here, let's see. Isn't that lovely? Let's get some atonal, some like string grit. We can go really. I gotta turn this thing up. It's very quiet. So let's, we'll call that espressivo. strings just to get some textures. Modify some of this. I want it to be rhythmic. Yeah, that's good. Ooh. That gives me chills right there. So let's do that one. So I like that one. I'm not doing anything particularly crazy necessarily, but I'm just like, I'm trying to fill in the space to make it really interesting. Let's get extra weird, shall we? Okay, so I'm just taking a piano. I'll put some crazy like reverse effect or something on it using beat 2. how you know it's exactly where we want to be. That's the greatest compliment you could ever give. That's how I know I'm like pushing the envelope just enough to make you uncomfortable. Oh yeah. Yeah, I totally feel the Sephiroth vibes there. Okay, we got to tame this down a little bit though. Compression. This is all over the place. So I'm going to go to, I'll show you this real quick. Go to my mixer here. This Vox and Go Recorder plugin is just how you can hear my music, but I do have a limiter on here set to negative 0.1 dB, but I do want to put, it's a very light compressor because it's getting a little out of control because there's just a lot of noise in the low range. So let me go to a loud moment like right here and try to tame it down a little bit. Ballpark. So let's remind ourselves of what we started off with. So these 3 patches are exclusively Symphonic AI. So it makes me feel like I need to add something in this B section to just be more that. See that choir in there. That just helps give some more life in that section. So let's keep that. So now obviously we add the other stuff back in, just kind of helps colorize it a bit. I'm not sure how you say your name, but this sort of reminds me of Final Fantasy 15 dungeon themes. I can get behind that. experiment with the XY mixer for just that choir patch because it gets a little overwhelming here in the middle. So I want to see what we can do maybe with the automation. There we go. See how it floats? Basically an LFO, but it's always moving. Isn't that cool? I like that full circle. Let's do that one. That way it's kind of always changing. Then last, for that patch, needs a little of taming with EQ as well. Nothing crazy, but just like it needs to get a little bit out of the highs. That way it can live in the mid to lows and not take up the whole stinking space. Then we don't have to compress as much. Just for kicks and giggles, shall we? Let's get open my favorite choir ever, Tutti Vox. This thing is absolutely mind-blowing. Fits this style perfectly. This Dark Souls almost style. Because it has vocal effects of like the chicken pox stuff, that kind of stuff, which is just crazy. And like whispers and chants. That makes my whole body shake. Blah. Going on, but I like that first one, and maybe if we can move that to right here. Hey, cool. You guys are funny. Yeah, Xavier. Cool point. If anyone wants to check out Sonokinetic, they have 50% off all single instruments. Not a, as you said, not a paid presentation. Go check them out. I love their stuff. Oh, Vanessa, if you want to see what I've used, you're going to have to watch the whole thing, sorry. Or at least check it out. I mean, I'm mostly using Symphonic AI for these first few patches, and then I don't even know what harpsichord that is. It's a freebie. Blanchette Jus, just look that up. 2D Vox by Sonokinetic. Espressos, just Espressivo from Sonokinetic. And then just a random piano patch, which is just happens to be Noir. You can use anything, but with B2 on it, which is this fantastic reverb special effects plugin. Yeah, I kind of want this to feel like you're in the pits, like everything is dark. Everything except for these little brass moments. Let me figure where those are at. So the brass in this patch. Everything else works and fits. I just don't need brass in this mix. Let me actually just redo this end here. See if I can create something a little more interesting. Sorry, just experimenting here. Okay, last step. I'm actually pretty happy with this whole thing. I want to just add some cymbals to liven it up a bit. Probably turn them down a little bit. For this, I'm just using East-West Play. Pretty solid staple of cymbals. Want some crash cymbals. And some swells, mainly at the end to create a nice smooth loop. Let's give that a second. What do you guys think so far of my crazy piece? This is not the direction I thought I would go today, but oops, I forgot to hit load. Ha. There we go. I'm like, why is it taking so long? Well, I didn't hit start. These are supposed to be textures. Like that. Yes, I have used the BBC Symphony, and I do not like it. I'm not a huge Spitfire person. I don't love a lot of their stuff. Wonderfully controlled chaos. Isn't that the point? I like the longer cymbals. of my favorite types of music to write, and I do this pretty regularly. As mentioned before, I mean, one of my favorite games right now is Death's Gambit. And this is exactly the kind of stuff that they put in there. A lot of calm, ambient stuff, but then you have this kind of psychotic orchestral music, which I love. And even a project I worked on last year called Dark Dice. Same stuff. There are some potential projects on the line that will have me writing a whole lot more of this style, which I'm very excited about. Let's put ozone on here. I should probably change the order though. Let's do the compressor first, then ozone. I clearly have way too much volume happening right now. Let's choose a preset that is something that is maybe more analog based. Like warm and transparent. That might do it. Huh, what happened there? Somehow, oh, that's really funny. Y'all see that Mario? He was all kinds of off screen. Let me see if I can fix that. That's so funny. I have like the wrong thing set up for that. There we go. Anyway, so yeah, over here, let's see if we can go to EQ, boost the mids, boost the lows and the highs a little bit. Dynamics, we need all kinds of control in there, so I'll kind of stick by the defaults. But then over here, let's go to the most powerful Ultra Maximizer by, it's basically a limiter, but it also boosts the volume a little bit. So I don't want to go crazy here, maybe like 1.5. Let's see how that feels when we put it all together. Another quick way to solve this very quickly is just to select all of my instruments, go over to my mixer, hit the group button or the Q-Link button, and then drag everything down. That way we don't even need the compressor. So let's see what that feels like. It's gonna be quiet for a second, but that's okay. Let's find the, so here's what I'm actually looking for. It's a little hard to show because I'm looking at 3 screens right now. But right here, notice all of these little greenish, bluish bars. I want to make sure that they never go above about -6 dB. So as I play, I want the highest one to be about -6. It looks like the choir is the loudest one. That's how I know I have it at a pretty good level. And then we can grab the ozone and kind of let it do its thing. I think it's going to be way more effective. So let's go back and kind of reset that dynamics. That should help tremendously, especially over here in maximizing. We can bump it up a little bit. Let's see how that feels. experimenting with a hammered dulcimer. Folks, that's all the time we have for today, but this was a lot of fun just getting to check out Symphonic AI and build some crazy aleatoric stuff on top of it. That took a very different direction than I thought it would, but I hope you had fun. I definitely did. So I'm going to play out the final track, but I want to play two versions. First, I want to play through just the Symphonic AI patches just to remind you of what we were able to accomplish with just that. And if that is something that you want to add to your tool belt, check out the 50% discount link in the description below. And as stated before, that is an affiliate link that supports my channel at no additional cost to you. I have no idea how long that discount's going to last. So if that's something you want to add, make sure you take care of that as soon as possible. So we're going to play through two versions. The first is going to be just the Symphonic AI, and then we're going to play a second time as the loop with all the extra goodies that I added on top. So hope this was fun for you guys. As always, thanks for being a part. And if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, please do so. Hit that like button, especially on the replay, and let me know what you think of it. And last of all, I would love to hear what a good title for this might be. I have some ideas, but I'd love to hear from you guys. So thanks for being a part. Let's play through. And I'll see you guys next week for the next live composing show. Take care.